Stream is live.
We're
live.
here.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome
Happy
to our semi-consistent TBD Tuesday call. We'll see. I think, Jeff, you said that this will be like a little bit of a break for you after this one for at least a couple weeks, I think.
Probably, yes. I got Phillies game next Tuesday. Then Cancun the Tuesday after that.
All right, we'll let those slide.
Log in.
And then we'll see.
We can stream from the Phillies game, you know?
There
nothing wrong with that.
Let's see. And then
hello to those. I think we're on Twitter. I assume YouTube.
Yeah, Twitter and YouTube.
Cool.
I didn't connect to Instagram, but I think I can. I think it's trickier to do it. Like Instagram's got like a weird temporary linkage thing.
Oh, good. I don't know Instagram. Instagram is not my cup of tea. Not that I dislike Instagram. I just don't know how to use it. I'm 31 years old and I feel like 80 when I try to log into any of those. So we'll see where we're gonna go. And I made a tweet. I don't know if you guys saw. Just jumping into it. I've been thinking about it for a long time. I think Jeff's podcast with Chris like started me down the path, although it's been on my mind. And then the podcast he just dropped, was it yesterday, was like even more consistent. But I'm fully ready to not do this alone anymore. I mean, I've been me and my wife have been doing it. Like she's certainly been a great partner in the process, but for some reason I'm dragging my feet on the VAs and the physical employee front, and certainly ready to at least bring on one VA, and I've been needing one warehouse staff anyway. So that's my summer plan.
Right? You're the only one doing any of your own. I know you use the prep center for a lot of the Amazon flips, but all your direct to consumer, it's all you and your wife, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a backup? Like, can you go on vacation?
No.
No, there's no backup.
No, yeah. I'm there 5 days a week, and we ship between my wife, we ship like 3,000 parcels a month currently.
Yeah.
Oh, probably closer to like 5,000 by the end of this year. It'd be nice. It'd be nice to like. I got sick a couple 3 weeks ago. That was tough. So I think it's time to not rely just on me.
Now you're talking about a VA for sourcing, a VA for all the admin stuff, or what are you looking
I think I would start with a VA for sourcing. I mean, the reality is, and it's kind of my tweet, like I can spend $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a month on A2A part-time for my phone. But I miss so much, right? It's just like can't exist all the time. I have other jobs, I have other things, and I don't know why I've been putting it off, but if I can just get someone that's ideally like 3 to 5 hours either ahead or behind me, then they can really target like while I'm sleeping or like during busy like work hours. I think I could.
Ahead. Isn't that the middle of the ocean? No,
either ahead. No, 5 ahead is the UK, like UK
Europe.
area, Europe. Or behind, it's fine. But I think if I can just expand my service area of time, I should be able to more consistently get to like the 80 to 100 mark. Once I get
Spain. There's something with that I remember that I saw that in Spain you actually owe for like unemployment and stuff like that if you have a
hire in Spain.
You get rid of them.
Yeah, I don't know where it would be. I would love something like Latin America. I don't know their time zones though. Obviously, that'd be closer to ours. I'm not specifically with like a specific time zone. I think that would just be nice, just so I could target times when I'm 100% not online. But we'll see. That's kind of my goal for the next.
We've had a couple VAs in the Philippines, and one worked. They both worked opposite hours. We had 2 of them at one point. So basically, we were getting leads 24 hours and could kind of talk to them and tell them what we want to do, and they worked together to kind of split it up to make sure that they weren't sourcing the same exact thing. But they were also open to like, hey, if you want us working different hours, we're okay with not working like the midnight shift. You can work a little bit earlier and go. So just because they're in a different time zone doesn't mean that they don't have that availability to work in the middle of the the afternoon and work on from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the key is going to be managing them and making sure that you're staying on top of them, because I think that's where we failed on the first probably one or two, was you just were not on top of them enough and supporting them enough. And if you get somebody that's already trained, you're probably going to end in disaster, because they're probably working for other people, or they're just going to say, hey, this person's not paying enough attention to this, I'm going to work for other people, or work off a leads list, or those kind of things. We found that when you actually train them and spend time with them and put in the effort, that they seem to be more loyal, they work better, they talk to you more, they answer questions, they respond to the sheets that you give them. And like, we did a thing where every day we say, pick your favorite lead and tell us why, and then we'd comment more on that and say, okay, yeah, here's the information that we got from it. And we started going back and forth. Did we put, there's two people that are trying to connect into here. Did we send out a link to somebody? Sam and Matt, Luke. What did you do, Jeff?
Yeah, I did something. Probably did something wrong.
I think he linked.
Did you post a link to the guest?
He did.
Stream?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Sorry, guys, if you're in here.
Yeah.
Let me get rid of that.
Jeff posted the wrong link if you're in the StreamYard thing and you're not sure why you're in it.
How do we get the link out? That's not.
Where did you post it?
Deleted or edit. I deleted it. There was an announcement.
What's the Ghostbusters thing where they're like, nobody think of anything? and that's when the marshmallow you know what I'm talking about, Saul? Or is that too? That's, man, you're 31. That's probably too young.
It is it's yeah. I mean, I've seen the movie, but I don't know it well enough. But cool. Yeah. So we'll see. I'm definitely going to document how the VAs go. I do feel pretty confident we can get to like 70,000, 80,000 spend just in A2A with just one person. And we'll see how it goes from there. But to your point, yeah, the training and a lot of looms and kind of hand holding. I think the A2A challenge is going to be super helpful. I'm just going to send that to whoever it is I hire. But that, and then of course, like in person, I might have to convince Jeff to help me find someone local, because he clearly has figured it out. That's my probably my biggest fear. I was the podcast with Chris Grant yesterday, and I don't want to mispronounce the guest name, but he's like, yeah, we interviewed like 100 people to find one, and I was like, oh man, I've hired probably 100-ish people, maybe 80 people in my life through like when I was managing before Amazon, but I felt, I don't know, whenever I got an applicant, it was like 60 or 70% chance I would hire them. Like it was pretty easy. I was getting the right people. So going through like 100 to find one just feels overwhelming to think about, but we'll see.
Yeah, and it might be a good segue into talking through some of the steps that we take for hiring to really try to automate the process, because I think we have a pretty good system. So because I used to, when I first started hiring, everybody, I do like an intro of what the company is, right? Like nobody knows who the heck I am, or what the company is. Yep. So, and I've spent like 15, 20 minutes doing this. And I'm like, I can't do this with everybody that I hire. So I've created a process where, I have a company video that I record. Then I have a position video that we put together for each position. Then you post the job, and then as soon as somebody applies, you sort of automate sending a couple quick emails, because that'll automatically, anybody that applies, if you ask them 3 questions, you're going to lose 75% of your people anyway.
Yeah.
And then once I have that 25%, the first thing that they do is I create a Google form, and it has the videos attached to it, so that, here's the information about a company, ask a little question about that. Then, here's the information about this position, ask a question about that. Then just ask, questions, that you would ask in a phone interview. But instead of having a 30-minute to 45-minute phone interview, you make these people fill it out in a Google form. Then we rate the people. And now we're starting with a stronger base in our initial interviews.
Yep. That makes total sense. My interviews used to take 30 to 60 minutes in person each one, and that would be a lot
Yeah.
to do for this role. Do you normally is it like Indeed or where are you posting
So I use Indeed. I mean, I don't know if I can really be giving you all my secrets since you are
Oh yeah,
15 minutes from my place, and we're doing the same pool. But no, it's seriously, yeah. I mean, I use Indeed. Other place that I have had a good amount of success is, especially like, I mean, this is a perfect time to hire at least temporary help because everybody's looking for high school and college kids. I can send you some high school kids. I've got 2 people that have already sent me messages that I'm not sure.
I'm sure. My biggest thing is I need someone going into November.
You need somebody long term. You don't want a temporary. Whereas for us, we ramp up back to school, so it helps. But Facebook, local Facebook marketplaces, local Facebook groups, and just posting. Anybody looking for a job. Those work better for, I think, like the temporary helps. But we've got some some full-time people. I mean, my VP of warehouse came from just a Facebook post. My VP of purchasing came from a post on my sister's timeline on Facebook of anybody that.
Yeah, I got my mom to post. I got so what I'm getting now is, and I have to call them actually. I'm getting a lot of retirees.
Yep.
Like a ton of ex-business people who are like, hey, like I retired. I wouldn't mind working like a couple hours a day or something. I don't know if they really want to work warehouse work. That's the only thing. And there's like a tech aspect to the job where I need them to be able to do like, not that they're incompetent in any way, but outside of Amazon, when I do a Shopify, it can get a little tricky with the shipping and the labels, and so that there's a little concern there. So I don't know. That's kind of who I'm getting current. That and high school. The problem is I just don't have enough hours. I'm probably hiring for like maybe 15 hours a week right now. It's hard to get anyone that wants to commit to that and drive. So we'll see.
My little brother's
the part-time. And the other thing that I've been doing, so middle of, I think, back to school season last year, and it was because for us, back to school really ramps up in July, somewhat June. We're already getting stuff, and then at the same time, July is usually when our Halloween stuff comes. So we were just pallets and pallets of stuff. We just couldn't keep up with it. And so, it was like, I think it was like 4:00 on a Thursday, and somebody, comes to our, the door, and it's like, who's the owner here or whatever, and it's like, we're temporary staffing, warehouse staffing. Do you need help? And I'm like, yes. I'm like, can you get me 4 people tomorrow? She's like, yep. And next day, only 3 people showed up, but they had 3 people in our warehouse the next day. Almost a year later, one of them still with us. We hired him as a full-time employee. There used to be rules, I think, about how long they used to be allowed. The staffing agencies used to be able to sort of I think, restrict you from taking their employees now. But now I think New Jersey has a rule that you can almost take them immediately. So you can bring them in, you pay a 50%. What was that?
I was saying it's a free to work state, but they might not be allowed back in to their programs if they ever left you and tried to get back in with them.
That would make sense.
But I'm pretty sure they could leave their system and go and work for you with it. And again, that company may say, hey, we're not going to send you people anymore after that. But I don't think there's any kind of legal action they can take at that point.
Well, and that's the thing is we're upfront with these guys. Like, hey, hey, we need X temps, but hey, we need some full-time people too that are going to stay on. So we're going to be using these as an active interview, because for what it's worth, even with that process that I put in place to try to make the interview process easy, it's still time consuming, right? It still costs you. So what's the bigger cost? Hiring, letting the staffing agency deal with all that stuff, and they send me somebody, one day, and if I don't like them, I send them back, or I go through all that process, try to hire somebody, I get them in, and let's face it, hiring, going through the interview process is a skill set, right? You can be great at that. Doesn't mean you're going to be good at your job. Half the time, the people that are great talkers aren't great at their job because they're so damn busy talking instead of focusing on the job. And obviously that's part of us trying to identify that, but it is hard to identify, all those things again, especially because some of those people
Yeah.
that they're going to be good at, full.
Maybe if you have someone really good that you have to let go,
There you
you
go.
let me know.
Um,
You don't have enough space for them, and I'll take them over.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's gonna be it's probably gonna be my July challenge is starting to onboard. I'm actually interested. So my warehouse is kind of full to the point where it's uncomfortable to like bring more stuff in, and I've admitted defeat a little bit. So what I'm doing is one of my very good friends, Chad, who also works with me in the buy box, and he's a great seller. Like he crushes as a seller. I'm flying him out. So I'm flying him to me, and I'm like, we're gonna work on this together, and we're gonna spend a weekend or whatever, and we're just gonna get all of it out. And I love him for saying yes to that. And I think it's give me some breathing room and kind of start fresh. And sometimes you just have to admit, like it's just
Is
too
this
much.
all new stock that you just got to get out the door, or is this like returns you're talking about?
It's probably 80% new stock.
Oh my goodness.
I'm getting rid of a lot of my returns at Jeff's warehouse sale in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we got a couple weeks.
And yeah, so that would be it's a mixture of Amazon and Walmart. I haven't really done a lot of Walmart, but I kind of sourced for Walmart because that's the fun part, and I just have like this pile sitting. So it's going through that motion. It's going through the Amazon stuff. The problem is I just got hit with pallets. I didn't expect it. I think I have 11 pallets currently. I have 3 more showing up tomorrow. They've been such a pain to get scheduled. And then I have like 22 in like late August. So I had to go through what I currently have just so I can make room for the new ones, and I just don't have space to like let product just sit around anymore like I used to. So either that or I need a bigger warehouse, which I'm not yet at the place where I want
if you're
to
not
do
getting
that.
stuff out, you don't need a bigger warehouse.
Well, for the pallets alone, I might need one.
Yeah, that used to be I have no room. Let me go rent a storage unit and throw the stuff there.
Nope,
But
not correct. Don't do
that's
that.
not the correct scaling approach. So I mean, we would just move our returns is what we would do. Is that we don't have time
Yeah.
to process the returns. Let's move those.
Well, they're starting to take over my
little
house.
Different. That's a little different. That's lower ROI activity than for new stock.
My foyer upstairs is returns. Like they're starting to like creep out of the warehouse, which is not ideal.
Mean, the good thing about being terrible with your death pile is your death pile can then potentially exponentially increase in profitability, especially like if it's toys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the discontinued stuff. Like, oh man, well, I guess this is a good thing I held on to because
it worked out. Yeah,
this is now $150. This is why I put it in the storage unit.
Yeah, past me was very smart.
We had done an episode with on the podcast with Crazy Flippin' Mom, and she talked about how she put out like an ad for somebody, and some just girl close by applied for it. And I told her like on all of her videos how like her prep area looks like pristine. And she's like, yeah, it's not me. She's like, I'm a tornado in it, and the other person comes in and cleans it all up and makes it look nice and in charge of getting everything out. And I'm like, how do you deal with all the eBay stuff? Like, I wouldn't want to create the listing. She goes, yeah, again, not me. She goes, that's the person who does all that stuff, creates all the listings, sends everything out. That sounds like a good hire.
I need a better delegation in that regard. It's like even eBay. I took like 3 hours the other day and I listed a bunch of stuff, and I think I did like $700 in sales so far. Like it was worth my time to do it. It's kind of grueling a little bit to like actually do it. So
it was not worth your time. You could have sent the stuff in that's new in.
Well, yeah, but some of the stuff I saw on eBay I couldn't sell new. Like I had to get it on eBay.
Yeah, but the return for that time is not the same as it is for you to get the new stuff in. Yes, you got stuff done, and yes, it generated money, but it wasn't your highest value.
It wasn't my highest value ROI. Yes, I agree with that. So that goes into getting more people in my life that want to,
But I think like the eBay stuff is that part of it is where like the retirees can be helpful, because if it's something that's not full time and
especially if I can drop it off at their house and just set them up with a little photo booth.
Question for you: Why not hire more of a full-time person? You have enough work for them. You're just sending it all to the prep center.
So that's kind of my second part of my tweet this morning. It was like, I'm going to slowly remove a good chunk of my prep center work. I don't think I want to do it all at once because it's still going to be a space issue between managing the pallets and the Amazon. But I'm going to start with shoes and clothes, right? Because no matter what account I buy on,
Yep.
they're always going to be tax free here in Jersey. So I'm like,
Yep.
I'll start there, and then we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's the goal anyway. And I did also sign up recently, like today or yesterday. Shout out Steve. I signed up for an RA leads list, and so if I need more new product in my life, there we go. And
RA leads list.
yeah, so I figured, worst case, if there's some extra hours in the day, I can have someone go just source these items that are already called out as opposed to, having to do their own sourcing.
Okay.
For everybody listening in while we're chatting here, if you guys have questions, post it in here. I know Sean the Don, he happens to be in this group from the link that Jeff accidentally posted earlier, but he was asking if Jeff or Saul do any A-to-A flips with books.
Jeff, you want to answer that one?
My first sale was a book. Does that count?
Yeah, mine
in
too.
2003, I think it was. But
not that far back. I was 10.
But that was not really a flip as much as I didn't want to sell it to the bookstore for nothing. But anyway, I've never really got into books, so I'll defer to you, Saul, if you have.
Yeah, I don't do a ton anymore. It was where I started. There was like a very small portion of the A2A challenge. We went over it. It's still it's still very profitable if you spend the time. Mainly if you're doing A2A books, you're buying from FBM sellers and you're just flipping them back FBA. I preferred that over thrift stores. I did thrift stores for a year. It's fine. I almost went like the Gaylord route and like the big operation stuff. I didn't, and I'm kind of happy I didn't. But yeah, I would say like usually the ROI 200, 300% plus for even for A2A books. It's just they're going to take a little bit longer to sell. They're going to take longer to get to you because they're shipping FBM. So sometimes you're even buying from overseas. Like a lot of my books came from the UK. And then they sell a little bit slower when you ship them FBA. So as long as you're okay with the slower dime, but you have limited funds and you're also stuck on the approval process. Like if you're like, hey, I don't want to get approved for anything, or I can't sell much. Books are almost always approved for you, used books wise. So not bad. It could be a nice little thing to add to your arsenal. I don't know if I would ever recommend someone do like full-time A2A books, although you probably could do it. I think there's probably just better ways to
there's somebody
use your
doing
time.
it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's someone
doing
crushing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I think if you have the capital and I used to do a lot of the slow dime. I'm more of a fast nickel myself now, with like a little bit of those like slower long tail holds. But
textbooks
it is fun.
Still a thing too. Like you could buy like the textbooks used from MFers and then FBA during.
Yeah, I mean that's what we looked at. I think on the challenge we looked specifically at books that were like under 100,000 ranks. So these were like pretty fast moving for the book category. And there were 600 books that we found that came up through Keepa at least that were under $20 merchant fulfilled and over $45 buy box for used. So like, there was a pretty solid arbitrage opportunity.
They did start gating some of the textbook companies, and then in order to do that, you had to order like 1,000 books. But it turns out you could A flip to ungate, and people realized when they finally realized that if there was an availability to buy 10 of that exact book new, then you could ungate it. So that's probably still the case. I don't know if they're going to say 50 now.
You can also add you can add invoices on top of each other.
Yeah.
So if you can't find 10 of one, right? You just 10 of, as long as it's the brand.
That brand, yeah.
But yeah, I don't do it enough anymore to know like where the new gates are with I know that textbooks are a lot of fraud with textbooks.
Yeah.
But yeah, feel free to throw in questions.
You started in, right? Was trying to get rid of your textbooks, and that's how you ended up finding Amazon.
Well, I mean, I sold a couple things when I was in college on Amazon. Then I, took and it was just textbooks, and then I took a 10-year break, and then actually discovered it as a business model, not just trying not to lose all my money to the bookstore.
Yeah. I mean, I used to at my college. I mean, I would set up the table kind of near-ish to the bookstore and try to cash out the students early on. I mean, books for me it was like the first like first 18 months of anything Amazon, it was mainly books on Amazon and used clothes on eBay. And that's what got me going. Yeah, I'll never, the smell of used clothes at the thrift store never leaves your nostrils. But like even like the Goodwill outlets, anyone that's watching that's been to the outlets, like that's a whole experience that I couldn't keep up with.
I
But
didn't buy
it was a
any
lot
books.
of money.
I tutored other people so I didn't have to buy the books. So I got paid by them to tutor them, and then didn't have to buy books. So it was a win-win for me. But then, of course, if I had done that, I would have gotten into books at the same time as Jeff, and now be in daily payout. So that was a mistake, I guess.
Hindsight's always 2020. Favorite categories for 808 flips, or more just an opportunist?
I'm heavy shoes, I think, is the category that I find the most flips on. But I mean, in Q4 I definitely like the toy category. And
are you finding in shoes because that's where the flips are, or because you focus on that category?
I don't know. That's the category I do tend to look at the most, because I feel like that's where I've had the most success. Electronics is another one that can be good. And then I do toys, but some of the toys are more even like long-term hold, where I'm buying it where I don't plan to flip it for a while. Especially like from a Lego perspective, where it's not about buying now as much as buying and flipping now. It's buying and holding for a little while.
I haven't done any of the toys. It's not something I know enough about, and I'm always looking at them like, this thing looks like a piece of junk, and that's what I did the whole. You saw in the Q4 group we were in. I didn't understand any of it, and all of a sudden it's selling. I'm like, why is somebody paying this much money for this piece of junk? And I guess that's just the whole thing. I had no idea that
junk.
It was a piece of junk, but
I mean.
But it wasn't Lego or anything. It was like the little tiny kids' toys stuff. And Jeff happens to have sold it 1 million times, and I was like, "Hey, you should buy this," and bought it and made a lot of money off of it. And it was kind of stupid. I didn't buy more. Again, one of those things I should have bought more of when Jeff says buy this. But yeah, I haven't done any of the toys. But I did like with the shoes. I haven't done sneakers and stuff with it, but I had pretty good success with some like boots and things from the 8A flips. And then getting into stuff like sunglasses and those kind of things when they pop up. They're not up as often, but when they do come up, they were doing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, statistically speaking, apparel, clothing, shoes is going to be your biggest category. It's just a huge category in general. And if you look at why most 828 flips happen, which is because of price matching retailers, there are more clothing and shoe retailers than there are others too. So Amazon just has a bigger catalog to price match with, which is where you end up finding a lot of that. I would say I'm a bit more opportunistic than category specific, but I will go out on a limb in certain categories that I just know more of. Toys being one of them. I think I posted maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago kind of my breakdown of categories that I sell, and toys was still number one. Actually surprised me. I think it's still like 60% of my catalog was toys. I think it's slowly lowering, and it will go back up again in a few months. I really like, and I've talked about this in the past. Like I really like, I call them home goods, but not really home goods. I guess like science and industry, like the weird kind of heavier machinery, the stuff that you would sell to like contractors. I do kind of seek those out. I have some Keepa searches I'll run. I do like electronics, as Jeff said. I find a lot of electronics have no ranks. So if you're only using Keepa deals, which is definitely more opportunistic than category specific, you're tending to look at items under a certain rank. You'll miss out on a lot of no rank products, which is going to be a lot of electronics, a lot of collectibles like Bandai, things like that. And then I really like watches. Like I'm a bit like Timex, things like that. I find like a lot of people are scared just to sell that kind of a product.
Yeah,
I don't have too much competition there.
Yeah, I've sold a lot of A2A flip watches in my day too. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's something where it's like, again, I don't know enough about it. I don't know how to tell if something's fake or any of that kind of stuff. I guess to an extent, you don't necessarily need to if it's the 8A as much if you're paying attention to it and it checks all the boxes. But yeah, it's something I just have not looked to explore. The industrial stuff, I am sending some stuff in, so I'll let you know how that goes in a few days here. It looks like Sadiq says he got his first A-Day purchase over the weekend. What's
That's
going
awesome,
on? And then let's see. What else we got? Car parts are awesome too, says Chad.
I think we got
Yeah, shout out, Chad.
Michael Clark still trying to find his way to after the 8-day challenge, which is great.
Let's do
Nice,
this one.
Michael.
Let's see. IP complaint a couple years ago. Do you take the risk? It's hard. It's sort of reviewing the Keepa graph is usually what I look for. Is right. Like if it had an IP complaint, again, did you get the IP complaint or somebody else got one? Like there's a lot of stuff. And I don't want to say misinformation. I don't know if people are doing it on purpose. Like, a brand might legitimately send an IP complaint to somebody that legitimately was violating their IP or did something, and then that gets reported as the brand sends IPs. Well, not really. They just did it in that instance, that individual. So, really it's a matter of like networking with sellers, trying and reading the Keepa graphs or even asking, our Discord or any Discord, hey, does anybody have any feedback on this brand? And I mean, reading the Keepa graphs is key too. Are there, the cliffs, the doop, going from 20 to 2 like that's a big sign. So, but generally, yes, if something, I sell brands that I've got IP complaints 3 years ago, 5 years ago, because it seems to be fine now. So I do it. But yeah, it's really trying to review what the Keepa graph says, and like if it's a brand I'm not familiar with, I'll look up 5-10 different ASINs and just review the Keepa graph for each of them. Check the brand's not a seller. Again, I sell stuff where the brand is the seller, but check because that can be a red flag. And then just if I'm uncertain, I'll test lightly, and then start to ramp up. You don't want to be 10K deep in a brand and then get IP'd.
Those are all great points. I'll still sell a brand personally. I mean, if I fought the IP and won, I'm okay. I actually rarely do get IPs, knock on wood. I feel like most brands do try, quote unquote, they try to warn you nowadays with letters or notes or whatever. Unless I'm really, really deep on something, then I won't care, and I'll push through. But I don't really worry too much about IP complaints at this point because I've been able to win most, and I just feel like brands aren't as aggressive as they once were, to be honest. I feel like it's actually happening less often for me, but I can't speak for other sellers. But what Jeff said, I think that's a huge tip, and what I highly recommend. If you have any concern about a brand, go to the product finder in Keepa, go to the brand section, throw that brand in, and then go to like the offer count filters. And I'll do is look for listings with that brand that have more than 10 offers. And so sometimes you'll see a brand, it's like you put the brand in, it's like, oh, this brand has 800 listings. And then you put how many of their listings have more than 10 sellers? 1. And I'm like, all right, this is not a good sign.
Yep.
So it's a nice way to like very quickly validate if a brand is going to be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, certainly somebody can create a listing and be on their own thing, or if it's something with like a weird bundle, that might be they created the listing and they're the only seller on it. So just because it has only 1 or 2 doesn't mean that that's something to avoid, but it's a good sign to take a look at and see if they're all like that, then it might be something to stay away from. Or if the brand is selling on it, that's something to kind of look at and say, okay, this might not be a great idea. You can still sell them with the brand. There's plenty of ones that work that way, but it's, again, one of those red flags that you might want to stay away from. That being said, I think that if the companies are doing enough of the IP complaints and they get overturned because they're doing them incorrectly, I do think that Amazon does look at that and say, hey, you're sending these things out and they're not accurate or whatever. But I don't know how far they enforce with the brands themselves, because they want the brands there. That's what Amazon ultimately wants, is brands to be selling. But yeah, I've had them all overturned on any of the ones that I've received, but it's one of those things that I won't continue selling it because I'd rather just give someone my money that wants it versus fight with somebody else. Somebody's asking if we sell on other platforms like Best Buy. I think that was Sean the Don that's in the private chat there because he wasn't here because he jumped out. But I sell on Walmart and Amazon, eBay, that kind of stuff, but not any of the Best Buy, Sears, Kmart, any of that crap. I don't know what you guys do.
Nope. I mean eBay.
I mean, obviously, I have Shopify experience. I've sold on Newegg, and that's it. I haven't really tested. And obviously, I'm testing Walmart now, but I haven't gone out beyond that.
Yeah, not much here. 99.9 is Amazon.
You got how do you guys stay organized in your business from sourcing, tracking, shipments, payments? I'm awful with it, so I'll let you guys answer that one.
Sourcing, tracking, shipments, payments.
It
depends how you're. I mean, this question's hard to answer without knowing specifically how you're sourcing. The practices are going to be different if you're doing A2A, RA, OA, wholesale, etc. RA is probably the most annoying way to stay organized because of your physical receipts. I do have an Epson scanner. It's like this thin. It's like $100 on Amazon. So the plan, and I actually tweeted out recently kind of like an RA tip. I try to stay organized while I'm doing the RA. Like get in the car and try to organize what you can. The last thing you want to do is lose a receipt between the store and your house or your warehouse, which has certainly happened. One time I opened the trunk and like, whoo, receipts. Best thing I can say is for RA, I'll scan them in and then I'll label them by the store, by the month, by the year, and by the day. And I can easily go like, oh, 2023, Walmart, June, and then I can find, because then in inventory labs or whatever sourcing you're doing, you would put in the date you purchased it, and you'd be able to pull like, when did I source the product, and then go find that receipt. Always very similar, always really easy though, because you can just download the receipt from your email. You can even automate this if you want. You can do something like email parsing. You don't have to get that fancy though. You can simply just go and do it. For Amazon, I highly, highly recommend everyone that's listening that does A2A, go and download your invoices, make it a habit once a week. If for some reason you lose access to your buying account, especially your business account, which can happen, you lose all your invoices. So you want to download those to have them just in case you have sold a product that you no longer can get access to. And then wholesale is pretty straightforward because you have like the POs or the invoices or like the more legitimate. And then I have a buy sheet, which kind of handles all the other stuff that you mentioned, which is like, what did I buy it? When did I buy it? Where did I buy it from? Did it get delivered? How many did I order? How many got delivered? Did I return it? All that stuff is in my buy sheet between me. Bless you.
Thanks.
I use the same buy sheet for myself and my prep center. So stuff that they have a tab and I have a tab.
Yeah, I will say I got infinitely better when I got a prep center. When I did not have a prep center, I'd be like, "Oh, I'll just get to it later," and just later never happened. So, and that was something where I started this. I left my full-time job and started this. So even without that, I was always putting it off. So if you have a full-time job and you're trying to do this, you need to do it and download that stuff, save it as you are buying it, as you're doing everything. Otherwise, you will never get to it. And then when there is a problem, you're going to be sourcing all the way, or trying to look all the way back at all your records. So if you get something with an inauthentic complaint, Amazon can ask you for the whole year, or like back 12 months of receipts, and you need to show them that, and it has to show the quantities that match up with whatever they have shipped in there. Otherwise, they're going to go back and forth, give you some problems with it. You have to know that if you pulled stuff back, got returns, something got sent out, so anything that's going to change the quantities, you have to be able to show that. So you need to have all that information relatively on hand if there is an issue.
We did skip some.
Yeah, I was going back and hitting my sitting. Does my account health score have a drastic effect on sales? It depends what your score is, how long you've been selling, how much it dropped down. Somebody like Jeff, who's maxed it out, doesn't, if this goes down a little bit, it doesn't affect anything. Now, if you have a really low, I think if you're brand new and you do, and it can, I don't know if, actually, you're right. I don't know if it has effect on the sales. It can put you in jeopardy of getting kicked off the platform, which is really slow.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You're right. I don't know if it affects the question is, does it affect the sales? I don't know that it affects the sales, but it can put your account in jeopardy.
I remember feeling like if I got a negative review, like, that my sales drastically decreased, but I don't know
I think the reviews. I think there was something it's like under 90, under 92%, under 90%. I know there is like a threshold for reviews
Yeah, and then
where they
it,
do
so
kind of deprioritize you. I don't think your back end account help though should impact anything other than you, yeah, potentially getting suspended.
yeah.
I do know that every day that sales seem a little bit slow for the day, and I go and I check like voice to customer and like make sure I don't have any negative reviews. Within 15 minutes, all of a sudden I start getting some sales. So I don't know if that has a direct effect. You start looking for things, and they start getting sales, or just maybe I'm looking too much. But it always seems that way. I'm like, what is going on here? And all of a sudden they're like, all right, let's give it to him. He's looking at it. This one's going to be a long answer here, but so first back to school season coming up for me. General approach and strategies, sourcing, going deep or wide, anything to avoid, etc. Extremely complicated answer to this. To me, depending on what you're doing, like if you're buying auto parts, don't go deep on that. But if you're buying shoes, socks, clothing, backpacks, markers, crayons, all those kind of things. Buying that, yeah, you can go a little bit deeper than you normally would, just like in Q4. I don't know if you were in Q4 last time there, Mark, but you're going to sell more of everything. So that time of the year is just good to go a little bit deeper on some of that stuff. But again, look at Keepa, go back a year, see what it was kind of doing back then, and make sure that you're not just going to buy something in a tank, because that does happen. Everywhere's running sales. So from right now and for the next few months, there's going to be tons and tons and tons of sales happening. So it's hard to know if you're getting it at the best price. So try to make sure you're maximizing everything you possibly can if you're new to it, so that you know that you're getting the best price for the product you're buying. Anyone else have anything on that one?
Yeah, I mean, Keepa is the truth too. I mean, like, you asked, do you go deep or wide? I mean, I'm always trying to go wide, but individual items may need to go deep. But at the end of the day, I'm still buying for the same amount, right? Like whether I'm targeting 4 weeks, 6 weeks, how many units I'm buying is, dictated by, how many units it's going to sell on a daily basis based on, my best estimates. And what you should be able to gather from Keepa as you get, better with this of, okay, how many units, will it sell? So, and I mean, you'll see some of the Keepa graphs are just insane with, back to school products where, it might move, especially now that the Keepa has added this sort of monthly sales, and really they're just pulling off of Amazon, which has been there for a little while, but now it's, saved in the graph. So it helps. I mean, you can see some of these items that will move, 200 a month, and then, in April, and it'll be moving, 10,000 a month in, August. So, looking at that and, identifying the opportunities where you can stock up based on, the increased velocity is going to happen. But also the big thing, as Joe alluded to, is, everybody's doing the same thing. So those products that move so crazy, lots of times will tank, and, we'll take an approach of, we'll buy it because a lot of the retail stores will throw things on sale for back to school, and then everybody buys it and the price tanks. So we'll just buy it and we'll sit onto it into Q1, and everybody will fight for 10% ROI, and then we'll sell it in January for 150% ROI. Obviously, not everybody has the capital or warehouse space or whatnot to do holds in stores, but it's a good opportunity to look for things where if you do want to dabble in holds, getting the deals, and that's and again, we'll buy and sell on the down a little bit, but at some point it becomes, okay, I'm not doing 20% ROI. I'm going to save this for 100% ROI in 6 months, because some of the stuff's just predictable. You can see exactly what happens. Retail stores jack their price down. Everybody's going to join, and the price is just not going to hold, and switch some of those to holds.
I think I hope everyone has like a little closet space in their house if they really wanted to hold something. I do want to say, I'm going to answer this question in a different way than you asked, because I'm actually going to answer it not on the sourcing side, especially because it's your first back to school. I think your first season of anything, you're at a clear disadvantage of not having done it in the past. So in my opinion, what you want to do also is focus on sourcing, but also focus on watching and recording. If there is, what you almost want to do a postmortem. So come September or October, go back and look at what ASINs just crushed. You can use Keepa, right? You can go back and be like, what tailed up, like what prices skyrocketed, and then record all those. Either export that or record the ASINs that you thought about buying that you didn't buy that did well, or that you can go back and look at and they actually did. Because the downside of Keepa is Keepa has a really, really hard time looking backwards more than 6 months. It really, really struggles. So it's hard, like through the data finder. You can go individual charts, but it's really hard to use like the entire data analysis to be like, oh, what did really well 12 months
Yeah,
ago?
yeah.
And so if you're looking at that now, it's hard to say, well, what did well last back to school? But now you can create a list this back to school. So then 2025, you can crush in a way that other people who are starting can't. I will also say that it's never a bad idea to do a little bit of storefront stocking, reverse sourcing. Like you can certainly use Keepa, I'd say, starting in like 2 to 4 weeks, like kind of sometime in July, you can run some nice Keepa product finder searches. Look for products that are increasing in seller rank and decreasing in sales rank, or increasing in seller rank and increasing in price. And you might be able to catch some early winners of back to school that people are setting in now that are still available in retail stores. And what you'll find, as Jeff said, which I love that he said it, if you look at those charts, you'll see so many. I was looking at back to school stuff for the chat. You'll see so many that like just get crushed, and then January, February actually hit their all-time high. Like they actually did better in January, February than they ever did in like August or September. So yeah, you gotta obviously decide what you want to hold there. But
I mean, that's
those
just
my 2 cents.
Yeah, I would say just in general for seasonal products, a lot of times you will make more money selling it after the season. The velocity is
Slightly
not
off
the
season.
same. You're not going to be selling, 20,000 units like you might, a Nike backpack might, move 10,000 units in the month of August. But I don't care if I can move 200 in September, or not September, sorry, 200 in January for 100% ROI versus no ROI, but moving fast. I'll take that 100% ROI. Obviously you got to worry about all the other factors with, holding stuff. But
maybe people forget back to school is there's college too. Like the semesters in January, like people forget all about that back to school bump.
There's always a nice bump in January because of that, and even December, like the backpacks. So you might be able to, unload backpacks that you bought in August in December. It's not, you're not talking massive hold.
Yeah, and I mean the time that school starts is different in different areas too. So it's not like you might get a few different bumps even at this time. So like the stuff that you're sourcing right now, the stuff that's going to like things are on sale like last week, this week, next week, are stuff that's going to be the first wave of the things that are really ramping up in the back to school. So like they're coming into sale, mid July to really the end of August is really like where the peak of stuff is, and then it kind of peters off, and then it spikes again, I guess, when some of the college stuff's going back in, or some of the other areas of the country are going back to school. So it all depends what you have going on. And then what Saul was saying as well, if you're looking at some of the using Keepa and doing some or reverse sourcing, and specifically looking at FBM sellers during certain times, you can a lot of times catch the sales that are currently happening and then jump on them, especially if you're doing FBM. But if you're going to try to then send them in and try to catch the very end of the season with the back to school, you might not. So it could be a win, it could be a loss, a little bit of a gamble. But you might see the prices start going back up as people tank the listings and then sell out and move on.
100%. Well, I know we have about 10 minutes. We can probably grab the rest of these questions and call it.
Rapid fire them. Let one person answer and then move on.
Thank you, Hamza. Appreciate you.
I'm a fan of getting ungated when it makes sense to get ungated. Like don't just ungate because it's a popular thing to do. If you plan on selling that product and you find some things at a profitable price, but don't just try to ungate and then now try to look for profitable products later. Like it doesn't make sense that way. If you can find products that make sense to buy, ungate at that time. I know it's a little bit scary right now with like Adidas, and then you see all the stuff with restrictions on Nike and everything. But there's so many different brands, and those are you're talking Nike's the top of like of apparel. There's so many others that collectively make up that same marketplace. So just to me, I would, as I source it, as I find it, buying 10 shouldn't be that crazy difficult. And if it is, then it might not be the right category or thing to be buying for you anyway. But yeah, I would ungate as you need to, not for the sake of just ungating.
I agree. Keep a record of what's profitable.
Let's see. IP complaints. Yep. Agree on that. Amazon, if there's zero sales, and Keepa shows Amazon.
You'll buy if there's zero sales shown, and Amazon.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, there's more context here if I look at the Keepa chart, but I buy a ton of products that have no rating.
Well, no rating or no?
No ranking's different than it not.
No rating. RATING, like has zero reviews, zero rating, zero like 50 plus sales. I mean, there's lots of products that are brand new to the market that will just do super well. I think it just comes down to legacy knowledge of knowing the brands, especially if it's a new variation on an existing product that you know is just like a new colorway that's going to do well or whatever it is. But we talked about this in the past. So we won't harp on it. I think all three of us ignore the buy box percent.
The buy box percent doesn't bother me, especially like Amazon. But and like zero sales, I'm not exactly sure what you mean. But I mean, I'll buy stuff with no ratings and no reviews and get new stuff. It's just a matter of,
what
you just have to know the market, and it's definitely riskier, especially again. I buy more new to market stuff that isn't necessarily Amazon flips, right? Like if it's a new to market and you're trying to, like you may not know what the price point is going to settle in. Is this really a drop? Is this a, temporary? That's where I get a little cautious, but whereas if it's a regular OA item and it doesn't look like it has a lot of reviews, but I think it's going to be hot, I'll buy some. Let's see. I'm an LTL driver. Okay.
You're hired.
Everybody, how do I know if these wholesalers are legit? Like some are crazy name brands. But sell name brand products.
You don't know.
Yeah, I mean, from my wholesale perspective, I tend to focus on working directly with the brands themselves, or I'm working, with a distributor that's a well-known, verified type of distributor, not the guy posting on Twitter, Instagram, like, saying, hey, I can get you wholesale deals, or those guys that will email me or DM me with, hey, you want product or great deals, like that. Those are not the people I'm buying from. It's the directly from the brand, or at least, a larger, verified, authorized distributor. I know people have done a lot of like smaller, ones that are down the supply chain, but I'm reading more and more people getting burned with that stuff right now, like that. You really want to be able to track back to the supplier, or not back to the manufacturer / brand, because it just seems like Amazon is section 3ing and kicking people off, and just a lot of issues if you're not sure and buttoned up with your suppliers.
I mean, it'd be hard to tell in a lot of cases. It'd be like the same thing of trying to ask, like, what athletes are on steroids. Like, you just can't tell by looking at them. Like, unless you see them actually doing it or where they're getting it from, you're not going to be able to tell. And it's similar with this. In some cases, if you have some suspicions, you might be right, you might be wrong. But it'd be hard to tell without actually digging in and looking at what those like Chinese places are, to be able to tell if they're legitimate distributors or not. Someone's going to watch my video. That's good. Thank you. Do you do any advertising for OA? I do. I always have on advertising that I go do. If you look up some of the stuff that has like, I don't follow it exactly the way they say it, but it's like the 5-cent advertising thing. I do something similar to that. So if you go, I should probably do a video on it at some point, but if you go look that up, you can do campaigns where you put something to there, put a max amount of money per day. It usually never hits that max amount. Don't do what it suggests, where it's like $1.50 or something. You will go out of business. because you'll get 1 million clicks on something and it'll kill you. But you can put caps per day, and you can put amounts, and you put pennies on it, and you will see an increase. And you just want to keep the ACOS like below 5%. Little RA trip, got a break, watch live. Okay, cool. Thank you, FBA doctor.
I mean, Amazon's a side gig for 2 out of 3 of us, I think.
Yeah, I guess that one goes to me. And from my perspective, yeah, I was starting to ramp up, and yeah, I've told this story in the past. But I was doing this as a side gig, and I was a director. I had a pretty good gig, and I had a manager underneath me that ran my team and did a lot of the work for me. And it was like I was about 2 years in, and I was hitting some decent numbers and talking about making the jump. And then he gave me his notice, and it was like he's like, I'm leaving September 1st or something like that. I'm like, well, damn, I'm not training a new person to do run my team right before Q4, so I quit at the same time. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm out too. So that was my kick in the butt. Like I didn't want to be, I was like, I know that my day job was just about to become a nightmare as I got into Q4. And then once I did, it was like, man, I should have done this earlier, because it really allowed me to focus my full attention and grow the business. But outside of that, it was just continued growth. The beauty of doing this as a side hustle is you can reinvest your profits, and it allows you to grow a little bit easier once you do the
cheat code.
Yeah, once you have this as your sole source of income, then you need to be generating enough profits to pay yourself, live, all that stuff, as well as trying to grow the business, and it can be a challenge.
I did it backwards. I was full time
at first, then going back.
quit the job, then went right into Amazon full time, and then again, like you start depleting some of your money that you have saved up, and then you start making some of it back. And then actually I got things on kind of autopilot, had the VA going, had the prep center, and then actually the old job offered me a position back remotely to do some work. So I took that up. Now I don't have as much time to do all the stuff ramping up into back to school in Q4 as I'd like to, that I thought I was going to have, but just don't have it. But yeah, it's a balance, and trying to get it into, just make sure you have more money than you think you need, because you're probably going to go through it pretty quick.
So almost triple your monthly personal expenses. We will be very conservative.
We got
maybe this will be our
last one, I think.
Last one.
Yeah.
I don't do any holds, so I can't answer that.
It's such a hard question to answer.
Yeah, because
I hold on my returns.
I know I end up going too deep because I fall in love with stuff, and I'm bad.
I don't know. I don't know, Jeff, if you have a maximum hold time. I used to hold things for 18 months, like up to 18 months. I hold things now for up to 9 months, and I think probably the average is closer to 6 if I had to guess. I'm more comfortable with that. Really, what I did is I looked at my average turns per year without holds, and I average about 6.5 turns a year, which means I just go through my inventory 6.5 times. I don't know what the average is for an Amazon seller. I think 8's pretty good if you're that high. But it just means I sell half my products every month, essentially. And so if I know that, I know my average ROI on those, then I know if I'm holding something for 6 months, I need to triple my average ROI, technically. So if I'm holding something for 6 months and I normally get 50% ROI and I spend $10 to make $5, then I know I need to make $15 if I'm going to hold that same product for 6 months or more. I should do a better job of annotating in inventory labs if it's a hold or not, so I could run a better report. Right now, I still put it under the brand, and it's harder for me to distinguish if it was a hold or not. I would guesstimate it's over 200% ROI on a hold, but I've also done less holds. I think maybe 20% now of my capital is holds, as opposed to maybe it was like 40% at one point.
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah, I
stupid
buy a lot
amounts.
of Lego because I like Lego and probably to invested into it for the holds. But yeah, I mean, I used to just buy them like, whatever, I'll hold it for a couple of years, 18 months and whatever. Now I'm really focused on, okay, let me buy deeply discounted retired sets that, I can, hopefully flip within, as you said, like 6 months. Like I'm trying to flip a lot of my, Q4 Lego purchases, now, like just get rid of them now. And hopefully get, now I don't see the 100% ROIs on Lego, but you can see, 80%, 70, 80%. I mean, sometimes I'll find, you'll have the ones that really hit and will be the 100, 200% ROI. But
even if it's 200, I still can't justify that cost to sit on it because you're paying for the space that it takes up. You're paying for it to sit there. You're running the risk of damage, which hopefully you don't have that. So we'll assume that that's out of the mix of it. But it's hard to justify that money being spent in other places can't be spent more.
You're only paying for the space if you normally would be at maximum capacity. Like I'm always gonna have shelves that are empty, even if I don't do holds. Like there's just I'll never have 100% capacity. So I don't look at it. I mean, I should look at it at some level. I am paying for the warehouse, but I don't think that space. Now, when I first started, I was paying for storage units just for holds. That I can obviously write off as like I was just paying for that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just fast nickel, slow dime again. It just kind of comes down to how you want to look at it. I do a lot of toys and a lot of beauty, and those can really skyrocket. But
I
again,
get
it's
that
less
makes
and
sense.
less.
Yeah, someone I met with it, they when I was sourcing at like a TJ Maxx or something, they were when I first got down to Texas, they were only doing the going out of the retiring makeup and stuff like that. And she knew like every brand, every type, everything. She was an eBay seller. And I'm like, why don't you sell on Amazon? Because you seem like you know this really well. She's like, oh, I'm going to dabble in Walmart. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, you're a wealth of information. She was like, you need to buy this one, this one, this one, this one. And I was like, that's incredible. She's like, I would buy them, but I have shelves in the warehouse like stocked with them. And I'm like, that's incredible. But yeah, not something that I care to get into. I'll take the 10 nickels instead of one dime. But
yeah, and it's a capital thing too, right? Like if you're spending all your money, like you don't want to be tying up money on holds. If you have if you're not spending all your money, then maybe it makes sense. And it's just it's just another way to
It's a different
add
model.
some increased profit margins. But it's especially with Amazon, like you can hold something for 6 months and then the listing's zapped. And now, and there's other platforms, but rarely are they good as Amazon. So that's an added risk. Like again, we do a bunch of Lego holds. So I'm like, okay, that'll still sell. But if I'm 400 deep in a Lego set, like that's going to take me 10 years to sell on eBay. If it doesn't, if it does zap. So it's something you gotta consider.
All right, I think we'll call it here. I know Jeff has to get going.
Yep. Yeah.
But this was great. Again, thank you all for joining and asking wonderful questions. As you heard, probably won't be here next week, but I imagine you'll see the three of us again pretty soon. If you want to find more of us, you can go to fbabasecamp.com. Entirely free Discord that Jeff and Joe run, and you can find me in there as well. And when I say free, I mean free. Like this Discord will never go premium. You won't be like wake up one day and be like, hey, all my friends are behind a paywall. Like just like totally free. It's a cool place to hang out. But yeah, we'll be back again very soon. Thanks for hanging out.
All right. See y'all in there.
Thanks, guys.